Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a peaceful, energized, and beautiful day. In the previous episode, we witnessed a heartbreaking turning point. A dark scheme carried out in silence, culminating in a raging fire that consumed everything. The cozy little house in the suburbs, the sanctuary James, Diep, and their young daughter had built after countless storms, was reduced to nothing but cold ashes. James stood alone amid the ruins, his eyes red not just from the smoke, but from a deep, burning rage. A silent grief gripped him, one that words couldn't express. Everything he had worked so hard to create, everything he had hoped to protect for the woman he loved, was destroyed in a matter of moments. And in that very moment of devastation, James made a silent vow in his heart. He would never let anyone hurt his family again. That same night, James and Tongue, his old friend, now his trusted ally, set out on a mission to uncover the mastermind behind the brutal arson. The first clues soon came to light. Footage from a security camera, a suspicious figure lurking nearby, and a carefully calculated plan. Everything seemed to point in one direction. John, the man who had harbored hatred and envy toward James for years. But James knew better. John couldn't have acted alone. Behind him, there had to be someone else, a more cunning, more dangerous force pulling the strings from the shadows. Amid the pain and uncertainty, James made a powerful decision, one that moved everyone who heard it. He would rebuild the house from the ground up. A new home, safer, stronger, one that Diep and their daughter could truly call their own. Not to forget the past, but to prove that love and resilience can rise above even the worst destruction. Will the new home be completed? Can James truly protect his family while danger still lurks nearby? And who is the real puppet master hiding behind all these sinister plots? The journey ahead is filled with twists and emotional peaks. So make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss a single chapter of this gripping story. Each episode is a crucial piece of the puzzle, a story where love and justice continue to fight for the light, no matter how deep the darkness. John, a man consumed by deep-seated hatred and years of festering envy. He didn't stop at business rivalry. He was willing to use every ruthless tactic to destroy James, from sabotaging his career to striking at the very heart of his family. To John, James's current life represented everything he had lost: a successful career, a loving wife, and a precious daughter. In John's twisted mind, all of that should have belonged to his own family. If only James's family hadn't stolen everything from him years ago. That hatred had burrowed so deeply into John's soul, it blinded him, and that blindness transformed him into a dangerous man, capable of anything, even the cruelest, most unforgivable acts. On the other side of the storm stood James. After the devastating fire, what tore at him the most wasn't the loss of the house, but the fear and panic in Diep's and their daughter's eyes as they fled the flames. He had held them close, whispering comfort, hiding his own grief so he could be the stronghold they needed in that moment. "I don't ever want to see you cry again, Diep. Everything will be all right, I promise," James whispered, looking into her tear-filled eyes. Knowing how critical and dangerous the situation had become, James made a swift and resolute decision. He would temporarily move Diep and their daughter back to the city, where it would be easier to ensure their safety and monitor any threats. That very night, he called his personal assistant, ordering the arrangement of a discreet and secure place for his wife and child. At the same time, he assigned 2 of his most trusted bodyguards to protect them around the clock. James knew, at this point, even the slightest mistake could lead to irreversible consequences. Their enemies were lurking in the shadows, and they wouldn't hesitate to use the most despicable means to harm the ones James loved. James was now standing at the edge of a quiet but brutal war, a battle not only for justice, but to shield his family from further pain. And more than anyone, he understood one thing. In this war, there was no room for weakness. As the first rays of dawn broke through after days of turmoil, James stood once again on that familiar piece of land, the place that had once been a small, peaceful home, filled with the laughter of himself, Diep, and their daughter. Now, it was nothing more than scorched earth and ashes. But in James's eyes, this was not the end. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one that he was determined to write with love, resilience, and an unshakable faith. He didn't hire some unfamiliar construction company. Instead, James called upon the skilled workers who had long collaborated with his corporation. Craftsmen not only known for their expertise, but who also understood the heart and soul behind this project. James personally chose the architectural design, hand-picked each brick and wooden plank. It wasn't because he didn't trust others. It was because this new house had to carry the imprint of the love he held for Diep. It didn't need to be grand or luxurious, but it had to be a place where Diep would feel safe, at peace, and truly at home. He set up a small work desk right in the center of the land, laying out the blueprints, handwritten notes, and even a framed photo, a snapshot of the 3 of them, taken during a golden sunset in front of their old house. James would sit there daily, watching over the construction, listening to the rhythm of hammers and saws, sounds that, in a way, soothed his fractured heart. From time to time, he would video call Diep, showing her the progress. At first, her eyes were filled with worry and disbelief, but gradually a gentle smile returned to her lips. She saw his unwavering resolve, and more importantly, she felt the deep love James was pouring into every wall, every window frame, every coat of ivory paint she had always liked. One late afternoon, as the sun set in a blaze of red across the horizon, James stood alone inside the skeleton of the newly framed house. The breeze drifted through the open beams, carrying the fresh scent of newly cut wood. He closed his eyes and imagined the patter of his daughter's feet down the stairs, Diep's laughter echoing from the kitchen, soft music floating through the living room. It wasn't just a vision, it was a dream, and James would make it come true. He designed a small room facing the garden just for Diep, where she could grow her favorite lavender and tend to her flowers. Another corner of the house became a reading nook, with tall glass windows that would welcome the morning sun. For their daughter's room, James decorated with whimsical drawings and a moon-shaped nightlight. He wanted her to fall asleep each night, feeling like she was living inside a fairy tale. Every detail, every brick, carried with it an unspoken message. I will never let anyone destroy this home again. This house was more than just a structure. It was a promise from James to himself, to Diep, and to the life they still had ahead of them. That afternoon, as the car rolled along tree-lined roads, Diep sat quietly by the window, her eyes filled with deep thought. Beside her, their little daughter clutched her hand tightly, her gaze filled with excitement, laced with a hint of nervousness. Neither spoke much, but inside their hearts, a whirlwind of emotions stirred: worry, anticipation, and a lingering, silent question. Could they really start over? When the car turned onto the red dirt road leading to the countryside, Diep's eyes widened in surprise. It was still the same place. Yet now, beneath the vast blue sky and the soft scent of wild grasses, a small white house stood proudly, like a dream taking shape. Her daughter was the first to cry out, "Mommy, look, the new house. It has big windows just like in your drawings." Before Diep could respond, the car door opened. James stepped out, wearing the familiar warm smile she had always known, and extended his hand to her. "Let's go home." Such a simple sentence, yet it blurred her vision with tears. She stepped out slowly, her legs trembling slightly as they touched the freshly paved stone path. James held her hand, his other arm wrapped gently around their daughter, who chirped like a little bird in his embrace. As they stepped through the white gate, Diep held her breath. Before her was a small sunlit yard, lined neatly with pots of dreamy lavender. In the distance, a glass-walled room appeared with a reading chair by the window, just like the one she had once dreamed of in an old letter. The walls were painted a soft ivory, the floor tiles in warm tones, just enough to make her heart flutter with emotion. The cozy little kitchen had pale blue floral curtains, and the dining table was placed beside the glass window overlooking the garden, where her daughter was already running barefoot toward the wooden swing in the backyard, laughing freely. James stood beside Diep and gently said, "Every little corner of this house has you in it. From the paint color, the scent of the wood, to the sound of your laughter I imagined every night, just to keep going." Diep turned to James, tears streaming down her cheeks, but her smile was radiant. In that moment, all the loss, all the pain seemed to melt away. She didn't need grand promises because this house was the truest proof of his love for her and their child. She whispered softly, "Thank you for not just rebuilding a house, but for rebuilding my heart." And in that golden sunset, amidst the laughter of a child and the wind rustling through the leaves, their home, once more, came alive again, born from love, hope, and the quiet beauty of the simplest things. Beneath the golden hue of dusk falling over the newly built house, James stood silently by the large window, gazing out at the sun-drenched garden where Diep and their daughter laughed together on the wooden swing. A gentle breeze swept across the porch, carrying with it the scent of fresh timber and a trace of lavender, a fragile kind of peace, almost too delicate to last. In that moment, he closed his eyes and made a quiet vow to himself. From this moment on, no scheme, no enemy will ever get close to them again. Even if it costs me everything, I will never let darkness seep into this home once more. This house was more than just a home. It was now a battlefield, a silent front line that James was prepared to defend with every ounce of strength he had. But James knew all too well, the enemy never gives up so easily. This silence could simply be the calm before the storm. And somewhere in a dark corner of the city, John was already setting his next move in motion, a plan more devious, more ruthless than ever, targeting not just James, but also the buried shadows of a past long left unspoken. Will James be able to keep his promise? Or will fate once again test the boundaries of love and sacrifice? Everything will unfold in the next chapter.
Dưới ánh chiều tà buông xuống ngôi nhà vừa mới dựng lên, James đứng nặng bên khung cửa sổ nhìn ra khu vườn đầy nắng, nơi Diệp đang cùng con gái cởi đồ trên chiếc xích đu gỗ. Gió khẽ lùa qua mái hiên, mang theo mùi gỗ hương thoảng nhẹ, một thứ bình yên đến lạ thường. Trong khoảng khắc ấy, anh khẽ nhắm mắt, thầm hứa với chính mình, từ giây phút này sẽ không một âm mưu, một kẻ thù nào có thể chạm đến mẹ con họ thêm lần nữa. Dù phải đánh đổi tất cả, anh cũng sẽ không để bóng tối một lần nữa len lỏi vào mái ấm này. Ngôi nhà này không chỉ là tổ ấm mà còn là một chiến tuyến thầm lặng mà anh sẽ kiên cường bảo vệ bằng tất cả những gì anh có. Nhưng James hiểu rõ kẻ thù không dễ dàng từ bỏ. Sự im ắng lúc này có thể là khúc dạo đầu cho một cơn bão lớn. Và trong góc tối nào đó của thành phố, John đang âm thầm chuẩn bị một nước cờ mới, một ván cờ thâm hiểm hơn, tàn nhẫn hơn, không chỉ nhắm vào James mà còn là quá khứ chưa từng được phơi bày. Liệu James có giữ được lời hứa của mình, hay số phận lần nữa sẽ thử thách ranh giới của tình yêu hay là sự hy sinh? Xin mời tất cả các bạn cùng đón xem.